How do I find the funding to get started?
Let me start with this. I think one of the most common misconceptions see people start with is this idea that they have to have some giant amount of money to start. I started my first business with nothing. I started Guidant with $3,500 that we put on a couple of credit cards. So you don't have to have a ton of money to start a business. It can certainly make things easier, but it can also make it more challenging. So I always encourage people, the first place to start is with what you have. So for example, on the website, we have a financing tool assessment. I don't know if you remember what it's called, Duncan, specifically, but it's basically designed where someone can fill out some questions about, what they own and what they have. And through doing that, then the system will spit out, here are some things you may want to look into. Like you may qualify for an SBA loan, or you may qualify for a rollover for business startups, or you may qualify for a securitized loan, something like that.
Business buying calculator.
Business buying
I wanted
calculator
to
is the name of
insert
it.
that in
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
thank you for
Don't worry. We've changed the name 3 times.
Yeah, that's not surprising. So the business buying calculator. So that's one good place that you can start, because really what you're trying to do is figure out what are the options that I could potentially qualify for that I actually want to explore and understand what the implications and costs would be. And that can give you sort of an idea of what your starting point is. And then that starting point then becomes your boundary for your search. So like I said, you can start a business with very little, or you can start a business with a lot. Some business models, like if you're going to go out and acquire an existing business, it's going to cost you some money, right? So you're going to have some assets to do that. So finding out what you have is a great place to start. And then I think you start looking at what opportunities can fit within that. In my experience, more capital can be just as harmful as it can be helpful. It can cause people to be a little bit lazy about what actually is a good investment of their time and how quickly they can test something. So you can almost always find a scrappier way to do it.
Yeah, that resonates with me. In fact, there's a saying, right? Do you know it?
I don't know where you're going here,
Too
but
much capital. Anyhow, having too much capital can definitely make you sloppy. I know that from firsthand experience. And being scrappy, you find the ways to, you go to your vendors, you negotiate, you find things you don't need at the moment, and you can, kick that down the road.
that's where some of the best innovations and business models come from, is from entrepreneurs who don't have the same level of resources. And so they have to think about solving the problem in a different, more efficient way.
I gotta say, this thing has given me anxiety.
Yeah, because you're looking for the right answer, Duncan, and there's no right answer.
Ugh, I'm like,
There's definitely some corollaries with the business search there.
I cut off a piece and I was like, oh shoot, I think that was the wrong piece, because I noticed it kind of added to my bushiness over.
Well, keep in mind, like I'm already seeing that. So if you look at this one, Duncan, I'm already seeing that this part here is driving me crazy. So I'm going to do something to sort of bend this out here, because I like the fact that this is hanging out over what's going to be this little pool of water, but I don't like that it's sticking out this direction. I kind of want this to grow more in this direction. So,
All right, how do you feel about the finance question?
yeah, I mean, there's so many permutations you can do on that. I would say start with the financing assessment and then start looking at the options that you can afford based on that. But don't be afraid to look at all the things you have access to.
You said you started with a credit card.
Yeah, for Guidant, we did.
Yeah, what was your debt up to?
What was interesting is because we didn't raise money, we had to be cash flow profitable very soon. And so it forced us to focus on what we could sell and do that was going to drive immediate revenue. So we never put more than $3,500 on that credit card that was long term, because we had to. So we started with this idea of helping people use retirement funds to get into non-traditional assets. And we just started working on the solution path for what options there were for people to pay us to help them with that.